Hello and welcome to Agile Middle East 2019. Our special guest right now is Jutta Eckstein.
Very good.
Thank you very much. I'm very bad at names, but I do practice.
You managed perfectly well.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And why don't you introduce yourself, as in why you exist? What is it about you that is special? What do you bring to the world?
So why do I exist is actually, well, you should ask my parents, but we are not getting there.
No.
So my key thing that I'm doing is I work as an independent coach consultant, and I help mainly companies to become agile.
Beautiful.
So it's less so on the team level nowadays and less so in IT. It's more really the overall company and how to become agile.
Perfect. And there's a lot of talk about what is Agile, which methodologies, which frameworks, which tool sets. How would you differentiate between what we call an Agile mindset and the Agile frameworks, tool sets, processes? What's the difference? Or how would you differentiate between mindset and methodologies?
Well, the mindset is actually if the behavior and habits are really of second nature and you don't think about it anymore. So I'm more with Agile Fluency. So for the people who haven't heard of it, check out agilefluency.org because there it says, well, with the practices, once you practice them enough, also the mindset will change because you will always do that no matter how high the stress level is. And the thing that we often do when we differentiate between mindset and practices, process frameworks and all of that is that we say, well, people haven't internalized the values. However, you will not change the mindset of people by saying, let's go change the mindset. No. In the same way as you don't change the culture, which is actually, for me, kind of the same thing here. But how you change it is by practicing. Yeah. So you practice a different way of behavior, and therefore this behavior becomes your habit, and this way it becomes the mindset.
And what sort of tips have you got in creating good behavior? So a behavior creates the habit. What can be done to shape a behavior?
Well, you could actually really go back to, I would say, basic Agile, which is often not so basic, but kind of focusing on the value creation, ensuring the quality, having continuous integration and delivery, really kind of this basic set. If you really do this as a team, and you enable the environment that it supports that, you are helping that this behavior, again, becomes a habit.
Yeah. So if we have a practice of daily huddles and we have different roles in there, how do you make sure, or what would be your recommendation to make sure those daily huddles
are really working?
As in, I love to turn up to my daily huddle.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem that I'm seeing with daily huddles is actually that the people who meet daily, they don't have a common goal. Okay. And if they don't, then this daily, whatever you call it, daily scrum, stand-up huddle, isn't working, and everyone feels like it's daily wasting time. Because, well, if we would be like a manager tells us, well, you are now a team and you stand up there in your daily huddle, then you talk about what you are doing, I talk about what I'm doing, but we don't have anything in common, and therefore I'm by no way interested in what you are doing and vice versa, right? So it is a waste of time. So in order to make it work, which is also to make a team work, is to ensure that they have a joint goal and where they all can see how they can contribute to reach that goal or aim for it.
Perfect. And when we had, especially the senior leadership teams, the CEO level and everything else, where they'll have their own agendas as well as their own goals and often don't see the one goal for the company, the one OKR, whatever it might be. They might want to be agile. The people at the bottom might want to be agile. And then we have this sort of the permafrost or that concrete level of middle management, which can often not be involved in all these conversations. Yeah, not in all the cases, but quite often the different layers, if there are layers, have different perspectives of what agile means. How can you cut through the layers? How can you make sure the company evolves quickly and safely towards an agile state?
Well, actually, this goes to the question about the organizational structure. And so our approach with what we call Bossa Nova, and again, something for checking out, which is agileBossanova.org. So we use sociocracy for that. So the middle layer, often called also the managers in the sandwich position, they are the permafrost because they are responsible for the information which is coming top to bottom, but also for representing bottom to top. And in that, they're kind of stuck. And so what needs to be done is to separate this stuck out and to have two different people. So like having one person who is a top-down assigned appointed manager and who is responsible for the top-down decisions, information, communication and all of that, and another person who is an elected representative from the level below, representing that level, whatever it is, a business unit, a department, a team, whatever,
it's involved,
and representing that, so from the bottom up, and ensuring that this perspective is taken in the same way seriously as the perspective from the top. So it's separating out top to bottom and bottom to top, and having then also both, well, enable them with the same say. So when they decide upon something, they have the same vote, right?
Cool.
It's not that the manager has a higher vote than the other one, because otherwise you will not solve anything, right?
So we've had holocracy, the Zappos example, which is what it is. Then we have
sociocracy,
and then we have sociocracy
3.0.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And what's the key difference between 3.0 and the normal version?
Well, first of all, sociocracy is the kind of the original thing, and it's really very, very simple. It comes with 4 principles only, which is what I like. I like simple things because otherwise people are confused and you know, it's harder to implement. Right. And sociocracy 3.0 really comes kind of close to that. Yet it also adds some stuff to it. So so from my perspective, it does complicate things. Well, in a way that's helpful for a lot of people. That's fine. But I prefer the original because it gives me more leeway in adapting it to my needs. And sociocracy 3.0 is already one adaptation. And again, it's a good one. So I'm not saying it's not good, right? But it does already more than I think is often needed for a lot of companies. And then there's holacracy, which is just very rigid. So it's very prescriptive and doesn't really allow any adaptation.
And just on those sorts of questions, human beings like to complicate things, right? Although, who was it? Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. So, and we see this agile. We had Scrum originally, which is great, but then people like to read too much into it, make it complex. Then we have all these other complex states. As a company evolves and grows and things get put in, how do you stop people bloatwaring it, you know, putting more and more things in for the sake of putting more and more things in? It seems to be a natural state of human beings is, well, here's something simple, let's make it complex.
Well, I think this goes mainly back to that it's much easier to add something than to reduce something. And the reason is that whenever you reduce something and something goes wrong, then people say, it's probably because we deleted this thing and we should keep it. So especially process-wise, people like to add stuff, but deleting is just, it feels like, oh, you never know, maybe we need it. And we know there was a reason back in the times where we needed that. And so it's really overcoming that fear that if something is missing, well, we can always put it back in.
So how would you play the 80-20? So Pareto's rule, the 80-20, right?
Right.
So it's almost, we have to always apply that.
Yeah, that's true. So we need to do that also for processes. And I don't have a really good recommendation how to overcome that fear. It's more like
maybe it's trust.
Yeah, well, it is.
Because I have to prove myself, therefore I want to add something.
Absolutely true.
If I'm in a good zone, then maybe we don't need it.
That's the one thing. The other thing is keep reflecting and questioning, like, is this really helping us right now? And I think what we do in companies really way too less is doing that reflection. So taking time for reflection. And it is retrospective, but it's also individual reflection on what's helping and what's not. Yeah.
Cool. Good. Final question. As Agile becomes more and more mainstream, vogue, and all the rest of it, we're getting more and more big consultants coming in, charging lots of money in it, more and more failures of Agile. What would be your recommendation, the one thing, if you were to say this is the one thing you would recommend companies in the Middle East who are considering Agile, what would be the one thing you'd say to keep in mind? Yeah, as always, as they go on an Agile journey, always to go back to one key principle. What would it be? Or one key something?
The one key something is retrospective. So we were just talking about the reflection, because with retrospectives, you can always define and come up with something that's helping you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Something for me to remember. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.